Let's start in Monaco, where Monaco drew 2-2 with Manchester City. Bit of drama at the end. And Mr. Eric Dyer scored a 90th minute equaliser from the penalty spot. Donnarumma clearly not doing his homework. We saw him run over to the City bench and perhaps say, where's Eric going to do it? And they're going to go, well, of course, that penalty for England he took against Colombia, he put it to the goalkeeper's right. But if you were more studious than that, you would remember the penalty he took in the UEFA Nations League against Switzerland a year later, where he put it to the goalkeeper's left.
This is astonishing.
What a deep dive
stuff.
that was.
You
a
see,
deep dive no one needed, wasn't it?
Well, I think it's entirely relevant because he sent Donnarumma the wrong way, whereas I knew. I had a little nod thinking, yeah, that's
So
where
if
I
you were
would
sitting
have...
on the bench in your little Man City tracksuit and he came up to you and said, Marcus, you've got a very specific job here at Manchester City and you're welcome to it. When we play Eric Dyer and he gets a penalty and we need you to, this is your time to shine.
Yes.
You'd have stepped up and you'd have said, that's where he's going to put it, and Donnarumma would have saved it.
I would have said, I remember what you did in Euro 2020, Donnarumma. I remember what Eric Dyer's done for England. Yeah, he'll put it to your right. Oh.
I also loved Erling Haaland on this. He's just like so fresh. The thing about Erling Haaland is he's like so honest and so efficient. Like he scored twice in the first half from 7 touches in total, 2 great goals. Then when he's asked about the penalty afterwards, he said, I didn't see it really, but if you kick someone in the face, it's probably a penalty. That's it. There's no like, oh, I want to see this, I want to see that. The referee's this, VAR's ridiculous. He's just like, yeah, you can't do that, so that's a pen. Right, see you later.
Did you think it was a penalty, Jim? Because Eric Dyer, when he was asked about this, he went, yeah, there's contact, which is usually an admission of it's not really a penalty.
I can't believe there's controversy about it. He kicked him in the face, in the box.
You know what?
I know that it's not like he's trying to
it's
not like he's trying to kick his head off his shoulders or anything. It's like, obviously it's an accidental coming together, but it's one of those things where, as Haaland says, it's one of those things where it's just like, even if it's an accident, you've put your boot in someone's face. Clearly, it's you know, there's an element of danger there if your boot is in a person's face.
Well, I mean, look, Jim, I feel incredibly seen and vindicated today. Eric Dyer wins a penalty and scores. So, you know...
And you've done your deep dive. And as deep dives go, this is like world-class bog snorkeling.
He's got 5,000 words in The Athletic coming out tomorrow about it.
I don't even know 5,000 words. I think...
You can repeat some. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, maybe I've got a chance. But with Eric Dyer, I did think I understand your points, but if you look at the replays, I thought it was maybe a touch soft. Right, Luke, am I being a bit silly there?
Well, maybe I need to watch it back another couple of times, but I thought if you could put your foot that high in the penalty area and you make contact with someone, you probably deserve everything you get. So I'm probably in the Erling Haaland camp. I think there's a bit of a checkered history with refereeing around that type of challenge. Normally
Chelsea,
it comes
Brighton.
from a goalkeeper.
Well,
quite.
How that wasn't a penalty is beyond me.
Exactly, totally. Normally with goalkeepers, right? Normally goalkeepers just get to do whatever they want, and even if they're nowhere near the ball and punching people in the head, it doesn't get given. Now that's changed slightly in recent seasons, you would say. VAR is clearly, giving the people another way of looking at potential infringement. So, look, I don't think it's worth spending too much time worrying about it. I can see why it was given. It took a while to be given, obviously, to the point where we lost like 5 minutes. Probably the most crucial 5 minutes of a Champions League game, because about 84 minutes to about 89 minutes, there was no football being played, which is ridiculous. But I think that they probably, on balance, came to the right decision. And Eric Dyer's penalty was a good one. Look, I think Man City should have been out of sight by this point. I mean, they were dominant. They had lots of chances. I know that Teze scored a brilliant goal in response to City. Yeah, which kind of came from nowhere, really. But if you watch, people listening haven't seen much of this game. If you watch the highlights back on the TNT Sports YouTube channel when you get a minute, the whole thing really is particularly in the first half is taking place in Monaco's penalty area. So if you get pegged back to that extent and you're that dominant in the first half and you do nothing in terms of goal scoring in the second half, I know they're a bit unfortunate. Reinders hits the bar, Foden hits the bar. They're a bit unfortunate, I suppose. You can get pegged back. And if it takes a slightly controversial decision to make it happen, then that's just how it goes. I didn't think it was that controversial. I didn't really expect you guys to be asking me that much about it, actually. I thought, it's just one of those. But City, again, were pegged back because they didn't get it done. And it's really on them rather than any kind of refereeing decision would be my take.
Yes, I think that's fair. I mean, with Man City, obviously, much has been made about their form from last season into this season, and I've had my say, Jim. But as the old adage goes, if you're creating chances, and obviously if you've got Erling Haaland up top, you're going to take more than not. But if you're creating chances, it shows that you're still a force. You're still, because again, as Luke says, by the law of averages, you would put away a few of them, and on another day they would be out of sight. So it's not. I mean, it's certainly not panic station. Certainly not in the Champions League. 4 points from 2 games.
I think if you were to look at this result and some of the results City have had previously, and a little bit of the kind of hangover of the concerns that people had around them last season, you might be forgiven for thinking that things are going a bit wobbly, or the wheels coming off again. But I do think this is just one of those games, isn't it? And it's again, it's worth repeating in every round of games, even in the league phase, that European away ties are generally quite tricky unless it's a massive mismatch, which this isn't on that scale. Obviously, City are a much better team than Monaco, but they are a competitive team from a good league. They're tricky fixtures, they're tricky assignments, and we've kind of seen that play out again. And one thing I did take away from the game was that the quality of Teza's goal made me think that coaches are looking at Donnarumma and just going, lads, just screamers, all right?
Yeah.
I just like, don't head it when you can overhead kick it. Mm-hmm. If you get a chance to volley it and you don't, I'm going to fine you. Just like aim from far out, aim high. Just it's the only way to beat him, and it sort of paid off for them.
He was, I mean, without going back to the incident in full, he was already on a booking, wasn't he? And when he did all that nonsense at the end of the game, lucky not to be sent off, but there he wasn't. I mean, Erling Haaland said, with regard to Man City's performance post-match, we need more energy. We dominated in the first half, not the second. It's not good enough. Which, I think we're kind of used to footballers coming out with those kind of quotes, Luke, when the game's maybe not gone their way. I mean, they beat Napoli, the champions of Italy, in the first game, although Napoli were down to 10 pretty quickly. It's a panic station. That's ridiculous. You would fancy them to go through, but
but you've got to look at the context of last season as well, Marcus. Right? I was going to say I don't think we know that much about what type of Champions League team Man City are going to be this season yet, because the Napoli game was a home game. It was over as a contest really after about 20 minutes when I think it was Giovanni Di Lorenzo was sent off. This game they've been pegged back. They've been dominant, particularly in the first half, and they've not made it count. Last season, in retrospect, in the Champions League, the campaign didn't really get going. So they knocked over some average teams, some poor teams. And then they found it tricky, didn't they? They found it really difficult against Juventus. They got pegged back against Sporting. They finished about 22nd in the league phase, which meant they played Real Madrid. Then they just got knocked out, right? Yeah. So it didn't really get going to the standard they would like it to have done
against the Real Madrid side that Arsenal put away in hindsight fairly comfortably.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a fair shout as well. So, but then having said that, other than like a little wobble at the end of August, they've been kind of getting it done domestically. They kind of feel a bit like they might be flat track bullies at the moment. They knock Wolves over easily. They beat Huddersfield in the League Cup easily. They beat Burnley easily. They just go through the gears. But then when they play a team like Brighton away, who've got a really good kind of record against them, they lose. Spurs, when Spurs are at it, are a really good side in their day. They lose. They don't even score at home. So I think, Marcus, your take on Man City under Guardiola remains a really interesting one. And I think we might just be seeing a Man City team now, which are just quite a good team, but that's maybe it. Yeah. And they might get left behind in context of the standards they've set for themselves over the years with Guardiola, which isn't nothing to disgrace them. They're not going to go the way of Man United, are they? But they're just maybe not quite at that level. I think the next 2 Champions League games are particularly interesting. Well, the next 3 really, because they got Villarreal away, which I think is interesting, and then Dortmund, 2 German teams at home, Dortmund at home, and then Leverkusen at home. Yeah,
I mean, I know what you're saying about those Champions League games. The Dortmund one in particular, you look at just for kind of history and reputation's sake. But on the 10th of December, you fast forward, they go away to Real Madrid.
And their record away is bad, isn't it, in the Champions League?
Yeah, and I'm very interested how he'll set up. Because you're right, Luke, I don't think we know what they're about in the Champions League this season. in the Premier League bit Jekyll and Hyde. So and also in the Premier League, when they played against Arsenal, to me it's an admission of, oh, you're the better side, so we're going to play like this. Are they still going to be doing that in December?
Well, this is it, isn't it? I think even had that, had Man City come to Arsenal in December with a lot more sort of road behind them, I think it's very possible that they wouldn't have set up like that because they'd know themselves a little bit better, perhaps have a little bit more confidence. But obviously, we can't possibly know that. But I would think surely as the season goes on, they'll be a bit more adventurous in those games.
And Guardiola's this kind of, we used to have Guardiola this kind of mad tactical peanut, just loads of weird stuff that we never expect him to do, right? And all of a sudden he's playing, 4 up front, or he's doing something weird with Kyle Walker or whatever. If the kind of not the postscript, but if the final act of Guardiola at Man City is he turns him into like a turbocharged, like Sean Dyche's Burnley, that would be like, in a weird way, that would be like fitting because it's like the only thing he hasn't really done. So it would be quite interesting if he got some success in some way doing that as well.
Totally, yeah. The aforementioned Arsenal beat Olympiacos 2-0 at home. Easy peasy, Jim.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. I was there. Yeah. It wasn't
that easy, was it?
Yeah, it was. No. It was. I wouldn't go as far as peasy. There were times where it was easy, but I think
a professional job well done.
I'll use my own words. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah,
5,000.
You've got your 5,000 to think about. I'll stick with my own vocabulary there. But yeah, it was a game that felt like it was going to be very, very easily won, and then became a little bit more of a struggle because Arsenal were quite wasteful. Really, there was a point at 1-0 where David Raya had to make a really, really good save. Other than that, Olympiacos didn't really threaten with a huge amount of purpose, but there were tricky moments in it. But I think. I think there are a lot of positives to take from it. Martin Odegaard was the best player on the pitch by a million miles. Probably a better performance last night than really any performance he put in the whole of last season. He really looked back to his old self, which is the most welcome thing you could possibly imagine with my Arsenal hat on. So that was really good. He was all over the place. He played in Victor Gyökeres a number of times, and I think there's a particular chance in the first half that he blasted over the bar that he should really have done better with, and he's there to score those goals, particularly in games like this, the kind of, with respect to Olympiacos, the kind of mid-level opposition where you need your striker to just be burying that and making these games safe. But it's early days in his Arsenal career, etc., etc. But I expected more from him in those situations. He put himself about a bit, and he's interesting in that he seems like a real sort of contrast with a lot of the rest of the team at sometimes, and they are still figuring out those connections. But generally, there was a lot of positives to take away from it, and it's really important that Arsenal get these sort of games won because they've got Atletico to come, they've got Bayern at home as well, and they go away to Inter. Those are 3 tricky games. Atletico are in really good form. Obviously, we all know about Bayern, particularly in the context of playing against Arsenal, and Arsenal lost 1-0 in the San Siro last season in the league phase as well against Inter, and that's obviously a tricky away assignment. So really, really important just to get this done. And another clean sheet as well, a goal for Martinelli who looked lively, looked sharp. So yeah, it was fairly routine. Miles Lewis-Skelly played very well as well. So
we call it a semi-professional job well done then, Jim. Oh, right. We can agree on that.
Yeah,
I watched that game. I thought they were going to get pegged back. I just thought at some point they're going to get pegged back, and this is going to finish 1-1.
They seem to invite it. Yeah,
and then obviously Saka got the job done. That pass you referenced there from Odegaard through to Gyökeres, who should have scored, was an absolute beauty of a pass. It was.
Did you like the fact for Martinelli's goal he waited to see if it was going to go in for Gyökeres' sake, Luke?
He did. Yeah. It's very polite.
It was very polite, wasn't it? Nice. Well, what you need is Odegaard and Martinelli is a really interesting situation. I don't know how much you want to go into detail on this, Marcus, so feel free just to brush over it and move on if you want to. But I find it interesting that, those are 2 players who are quite synonymous with the Arteta era, and they've had really great moments. But as ever with football, particularly at big clubs, the whole show just rumbles on. If you're not careful, you get left behind. And all of a sudden with Arsenal, they brought in more exciting players and players who can play in those positions, and there's no room really for coasting and for not performing consistently at the very highest level when you're going to try and go that extra step. So I thought last night Odegaard gets an assist, Martinelli gets a goal. It was much needed from them, because if you're going to talk about how Arsenal have got the best squad in the Premier League, which a lot of pundits are saying, then it doesn't really work as a point if Odegaard and Martinelli just drop off and become like also-rans and are running on like reputation. Now, I'm not saying they've done that. I'm just saying that you could probably see it from where they were. And last night was almost a bit of a reminder. We're still here, lads. We can still contribute. And that's a really important thing. And if I were an Arsenal fan, I'd be very, very happy about that.
Yeah, the challenge for both of those players, and to an extent Leandro Trossard as well, is to, as you say, not become that, not drift into that position of being kind of the second option and losing your place. The whole point of a squad like this is you rotate it regularly. He's been doing that, and actually the players are responding to it. Those players in particular. Now Martinelli is someone who's had a lot of criticism from within the fan base, but he started the season really well, and he's maintaining that form as well with another goal yesterday. And he started on the right as well, in the absence possibly of Noni Madueke, who you would expect to normally rotate for Bukayo Saka. And he's always been a bit kind of hot and cold playing off the right, but he played really, really well last night. And I think the competition for places is actually working in the way that it's supposed to.
But it's important. I mean, it's not like it used to be decades ago. And I think that, as Luke was saying there, that Odegaard and Martinelli, stalwarts of this Arteta era at Arsenal, you got to throw an Eberechi Eze among the pigeons sometimes, or Noni Madueke or whatever, and it keeps everybody fresh, as you've already touched upon. And William Saliba is going to be there for a lot longer as well. He's just signed a new deal until 2030. He said he can't leave Arsenal until he's won a trophy. Interesting that he didn't sign it to 2027, but he thinks at some point in the next handful of years...
Yeah, it'll probably take about 3 years. Yeah. So, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly, yeah. So
we did say he wants to win everything, and as you've said, Marcus, they're only doing a treble this year, so maybe he needs to wait around for the League Cup.
He'd be gutted about that.
Yeah, keep signing extensions in the name of the League Cup. Now, what did you think of this? Mikel Arteta, has spoken about his request to remove the retractable players' tunnel from the Emirates Stadium, claiming that the tunnel muffled the crowd noise and reduced the atmosphere for visiting teams. He wants to intimidate them, Luke. He wants to intimidate them.
I'm surprised he's not pumping even bigger sound from like speakers and stuff out into the tunnel. Like it's proper like Barry Fry stuff, this, isn't it? Any little advantage you can get.
Yeah.
I like it. I quite like how unashamed Mikel Arteta is about being this kind of almost a combination of like David Brent, Jake Humphrey, and a really good football manager.
Yeah, he's very linked in. I have to say,
he's so linked in.
I don't love this because for me it doesn't go far enough. Sure, you want to get the advantage of hearing the home crowd roar for you, and it makes sense to take that tunnel away. But there's an opposition to think about. Have them have a little tunnel that's pitch black that they have to crawl through.
Yeah.
Possibly smeared in hummus, right? And when they all come out, all the Arsenal players can go, "Oh, North London hummus."
Why hummus?
And just get in their heads.
I thought you were going to say feces.
Just because it's a... again, that's you can dip into your own vocabulary there.
I said feces. I've still got jobbies left to use.
Yeah, well, there you go. Wow. There you go. But just because of the criticism that, North London teams get for being very middle class.
One specific North London team.
One specific North London team.
I don't think there's much hummus in Tottenham, mate.
That's fair, yeah.
I think that... I mean, if you're talking if you really want to push this, surely the away dressing room should have see-through walls and all the crowd can see him getting dressed.
Nice.
Look at it.
And then every so often you get a kid going past going, "I can see his winking, mummy." Just to really demean them.
I understand this is quite the departure, but at La Bombonera where Boca play, the away dressing room is underneath where they're all ultras in that stadium, but the particularly extreme ones. So when they're bouncing as they do, the ground is shaking in the away dressing room. You're like, bloody hell, is
it's like in the Colosseum.
Yeah, exactly.
Ready to go out to face a gladiator.
Totally, yeah. And I tell you what, during cigarettes and alcohol on Sunday night at Wembley, the stadium was shaking. Time for a break.
Agree.
I'm bored watching Newcastle.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Football Ramble. Now, how about this? A big win for Newcastle United, Luke Moore, on the road in the Champions League, but specifically in Belgium. 4-0. They beat Union Saint-Gilloise.
Yeah, it's a really good result. I perhaps overrate Union Saint-Gilloise for two main reasons. One is because I saw them beat PSV Eindhoven away last time out, and they were genuinely good. And secondly, because of the journey of the Portsmouth alumnus, Christian Burgess, who's had an incredible career arc, and any opportunity I get to talk about him, of course, I take that opportunity with both hands. But I think Newcastle were a bit disrespectful to Christian Burgess's career arc last night by just pulling them to pieces. I thought it was a really, really good job. I watched the Arsenal game, so I didn't watch this game in its entirety beforehand because I was actually away because this was the earlier game in the day, wasn't it? But I particularly enjoyed William Osula's forward play for Harvey Barnes' fourth. I mean, it's absolute quality forward play. Great run, great strength, great vision, and great weight of pass for Harvey Barnes to score the fourth. But overall, they were fortunate with the first goal. What hits Voldemar and goes in, he'd be delighted with that. That's a Champions League goal.
If he meant that, it's a beauty. That's an incredible
I couldn't really tell if he did or not, but either way, he gets it. Tonali seemed to think it was his, but it wasn't. I think from then on, it was pretty plain sailing, really. Gordon looked really bright as well. You get 2 penalties as well. That's fortunate. It's a bad day at the office for the Belgians. Both those penalties were, in my view, definitely penalties. Even the second kind of handball one, because he clearly has his arm, and that, as much as the laws are stupid, I suppose, for different reasons in this environment, he has his arm in an unnatural position, and it clearly stops the Newcastle player getting a connection on the ball. So it's an advantage by using your arm, so you have to give it as a penalty. The first one is just, Anthony Elanga is just too quick for him. So look, all in all, a really good day at the office for Newcastle. Lovely little trip back. Presumably they're having a little trip back on the Eurostar as well. Not a difficult trip, is it, going to that part of Belgium? So all in all, a very nice evening. Yeah,
Newcastle's first away win in the Champions League, Jim, since 2003. Of course, they're the joint lowest scorers in the Premier League so far this season with just 4 goals. And the first game in which Nick Voltemade, Anthony Elanga and Anthony Gordpen started together up front. So you
Anthony Gordon, surely.
you put all that in there. It's a great result, and it's not just the result, but the scoreline as well. The amount of goals is probably just what they needed.
I think it's a sort of a release of pressure, this, isn't it? And I do think, those 3 players not starting together before, and the kind of the relative lack of goals up to now, those 2 things are probably related, right? Because if you look across those forward options that Newcastle have got there, they've got Johan Wissa to come back, and obviously Osula has started the season really brightly, actually, and looks like he might be in a position to have a really good season without a lot of pressure on him, actually, because Voltemade coming in is obviously the main guy. He's going to suck a lot of the eyeballs towards him, and then obviously you've got Harvey Barnes, who's so reliable off the bench as well. So they've got a real kind of plethora of attacking options there, and they can mix that up, keep everybody fresh really well. And I think once they've kind of settled everybody in, there's every chance that they are going to be quite free scoring, and I think it's just a bit of a kind of quirk of timing that they've been kind of goal shy up to now.
Jim, Newcastle win on the road. Liverpool lost on the road. Is Alexander Isak already regretting his move there?
I would think so.
Fraud.
He has been
It's a
exposed
fraud.
as a fraud, which will be further delight to Newcastle fans, I'm sure.
Let's get back to some real chat, though. Did you see the BBC Sport article that previewed this fixture and honed in on Christian Burgess, the ex-Pompey man, as you've already said, Luke? And they started their preview feature on the side and Burgess with the following line: "As a history graduate who studied World War I, Burgess knows more than most about the importance of Belgian resilience in the face of a richer opponent with greater resources." I thought, come on!
Yeah. It's great. It's great because football players with degrees is absolute catnip to journalists, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's essentially rooted in this really old and quite prejudiced position that footballers are all stupid. So which is obviously not true, and as soon as you see one who's got a degree, people just lose their mind. That used to be the chat all the time when Burgess was at Portsmouth. Oh, he's got a degree in history. He's got a degree. Everyone just talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
that's funny. The degree's not really the bit of that paragraph I honed in on, if I'm honest.
Well, it's a massive stretch. I mean, if you want me to go in on, it's a massive stretch, isn't it? By the way, he is. I think he was. The article goes into detail about how I think he's the oldest debutant in the Champions League when
he's
played
33.
against PSV. Yeah, since Steve Bold.
Wow.
Oh,
Great
there
for
you
Ballon
go.
to get a mensch.
Lovely for Ball to get a mensch. Absolutely right. So yeah, well, hard luck, Belgians, and a great win for the Geordies. Now, elsewhere in the Champions League, PSG beat Barcelona 2-1. Barcelona, of course, won at St James's Park in their opening fixture, but the holders beat them. Proper end-to-end stuff this game.
Yeah.
I do love Hansi Flick's desire and want and refusal to change from his high line. It was highlighted to on the match on the BBC highlights last night when I was watching that, and I thought, oh yeah, I'd never really you kind of just expect a side like Barcelona to play on the front foot, but even against PSG, like really trying to aggressively push them, and it ultimately
The last
undid
minute
them.
as well, suicidal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Shades
like
of Ange.
well, indeed, Jim. I think they're not settling for a point, and I, even though they lost the game, I respect it. But the big takeaway, of course, is that PSG, get the victory against. So these are the two fancied sides for the Champions League. Not surprisingly, obviously PSG favourites to retain their crown. But it's a statement win, Luke, you have to say, for the Parisians after their humiliation in the Club World Cup to the hands of Cole Palmer and co.
Yeah, which is quite strange now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, which is why I mentioned it. It happened.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I think PSG are clearly going to. Yeah, clearly are the favourites, obviously. I mean, Rashford just doing bits as well is quite funny.
Great assist.
Yeah, really good. And in the really crucial part of the game as well, it was a really good pass for the assist, absolutely. But yeah, look, I find the idea that you play in that way, and then you stick to it so doggedly that you find yourself in that position to concede that winner so late on. For a fan, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you can't just set fire to your principles and then just play really deep because it's invite pressure on, because that creates its own problems. So I think the reality is probably just that you got to stick to your system, right? And PSG are probably, I think PSG are a better side than Barcelona, and they will be the team to beat this season for sure. I find that Chelsea thing and the way they went about it in the Club World Cup, it's very, very odd.
Yeah. Another big moment and another big goal for Seni Miulu, who obviously scored in the Champions League final. Very young man, really accomplished finish again, because obviously they've already got so much talent at PSG. He's funny, isn't it? He's a kind of wonder kid that's also, he scored in a Champions League final, and it feels a little bit from where we're sat that he's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. But
yeah, he's just 1 year older than Lamine Yamal. So
yeah, exactly.
The composure he showed when he finished. Was quite sad. But you got to mention old Gonzalo Ramos with another late goal at a crucial one. But also, you mentioned the Rashford assist. What about the Hakimi pass? It's Beckham-esque.
Hakimi did an amazing block on the line as well.
Yeah, he did.
In fact, PSG they defended in quite a clutch way as well. There were two really good clearances in which Barcelona should have really scored. On Lamine Yamal, I find it amazing that you kind of watch him, and I watched the extended highlights of this game. And Yamal is just, he's not just like a wonder kid player, which of course he is, but Barcelona kind of really hang their hat on him. He's like at the centre of everything they do. He's like really amongst it all the time. He almost looks from a distance totally like a senior pro, which is kind of wild to think of, because if you're playing like a wide attacking position and you're used to playing like in that way, a lot of those young wonder kid players that we see now, they play in moments, right? They just catch your eye with a moment, or they score an amazing goal, or they take someone on. Yamal is in the thick of everything all the time, and he was against PSG, and it's remarkable to watch. So, and he's younger than Mayolu, who we started this conversation about.
Well, indeed. I mean, it's like I know people might roll their eyes at this, but it is Messi-esque in that.
Oh yeah.
Messi was, in terms of the quality and what he could do going forward, but as you say, Luke, he's in the thick of it all. It's not just, we're knocking it about, and every now and then he's the kind of outlet. He is
he's right
in the thick of it, which is remarkable. Although, Luis Enrique did say before the game, for me, Pedri, without a doubt, is Harry Potter, and I hope he doesn't bring the wand. So they do have other players.
I don't understand that bit.
Yeah. He uses his feet very well, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Crucially, yeah.
You've got to worry about those a bit more.
All the best players do, I find.
I'll tell you what.
But apart from Donnarumma.
Yeah, true. And Joe Hart. To hark back to that. Marcus Rashford, okay, they'd lost the game, but to be playing for that side among those players, you can see what it's doing for him. I mean, obviously, we mentioned the assist. I mean, no Englishman has more assists in all competitions across Europe's Big Five leagues this season than Rashford. People might not be that bothered by assists, but it's...
Grealish has got the same amount as him, by the way, so give him his flowers.
Indeed, yeah. But, and both of them are wanting to be in the England squad come next summer and vying for that position on the left
side. Reinvent themselves by going to a different place.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this section here, where we're rounding up some of the other stuff that's happening in the Champions League, not involving the Premier League clubs, is that it essentially could be the same as if this was a Man United focused podcast and this section was called Loan Watch. Just everyone smashing it.
It does lead us neatly on to Rasmus Højlund and Napoli, who beat Sporting 2-1. And he got a brace. And Hojlund posted on his Instagram, Højlund scores twice in the Champions League after 2 assists from Kevin De Bruyne. Was not on my 2025 bingo card. Come on! He's having a great time.
He's celebrating his own achievements, and he's having a dig at the most boring people on the internet who just copy and paste phrases like that in place of their own opinions and their use of their own vocabulary.
Do you know what I loved about the Hojlund thing? Was that I was watching it thinking, 2 really smart finishes.
Yeah,
2
really
finishes
good.
Exactly of the type which would have inspired Man United to sign him in the first place. Like really nice tuck between the goalkeeper's legs after a great run, knowing what De Bruyne is going to do for you, because if you've got that quality of player, you can make those runs. Second one, lovely near post move, great flicked on header, brave in the keeper's, with the keeper challenging him as well. 2 things he did absolutely none of at Man United.
I mean, but
to be fair to him, so in the season before last, he got 5 goals in 6 Champions League
That's not a
games.
criticism of him. That's
Sure,
the point.
I understand that. But he also got 6 goals in the Europa League for Man United last season. So he's actually always looked pretty at home on the European stage.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, fine. It is another player who's left.
But if he had done that well,
sure,
we wouldn't be talking about him now, would we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if he'd done that well, he's still at Man United. But yeah, another player who's left Manchester United, whether on a permanent or on a loan, who's just having a lovely time. Those 2 goals. Let's be honest, there's a reason why we're mentioning them, because it ultimately affects poorly on Manchester United. As does Scott McTominay's continued brilliance at Napoli.
Yeah.
I like this. Scotland's Ballon d'Or representative, John Greechan, was the only judge who put Scott McTominay in first place for the Ballon d'Or.
Come on!
And Big John's right. He should have been higher. He should have been up there for me.
Should he have been first?
Yeah, why not?
I love the fact that John Greechan as well. The great thing about this, the real deep dive takeaway from this top 10, because the top 10s were published, is that John Greechan also put Denzel Dumfries really high, presumably because Dumfries is a place in Scotland.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Dumfries is 5th. Alexis McAllister's 6th. He sounds like a Scot. Get him in.
Yeah, he'll do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mook Dembele was 2nd.
Yeah. He scribbled out Lamine Yamal and put Lawrence Shankland in there.
He also actually wrote down Hootsman Dembele on the sheet.
That's excellent.
I just simply do not know. Coming up after this, there's a new Roy-kini branded bikini. Welcome back, everybody. Now, tonight, we do indeed have a Thursday thrill as Nottingham Forest and Ange Postecoglou host Midtjylland in the Europa League at 8 p.m. It's Forest's first European game at the City Ground since their UEFA Cup quarter-final defeat to Bayern Munich in 1996. What a sentence, Luke Moore.
Lovely one to hear, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a massive game, this. And every game is big. For Forest in Europe this season, for all the obvious reasons, not least because of that sentence you've just uttered there. But they need to get moving. They need to get going at some point. You know, Postecoglou's not won a game yet. They've shown a bit here and there. The real concern for me, as I said, I think on Monday, or whenever it was, maybe last week, that the big concern for me is that Postecoglou is content with tearing things up and almost completely starting again. And that's his right to do so. He's the manager. It's his job that's on the line, not mine. But I just feel like, I know you've got your philosophy and you're stubborn about it. The same way kind of Ruben Amorim is, I suppose. But it's an arrogant move to come in and go, I'm now, through good fortune, really, because of the way that the owner is, I'm now coming into a club who's enjoying some of the best success it's had for years and years and years. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rip it up and get the team to play in a completely different way. Arne Slot didn't do that at Liverpool. He didn't come in and do that. Mm-hmm. He realised what was good and what was bad, and he was confident enough just to not completely tear the book up and start again. Look, maybe that's not going to. Maybe that's not going to be great long term because Liverpool are struggling a little bit at the moment. But you understand the point I'm making. So if you're going to do that, it's all on you. It's all on you. And they can't go 7, 8, 9 games without winning one. I mean, they just can't do that. Yeah. So tonight will be a really interesting game because Midtjylland have had a good start to their season. They're 10 games into their season. They're second in their division. They're used to winning games. They're confident, and they'll know full well the position Forest are in. So it'll be a good one.
Yeah, although he was a lot more practical in the Europa League last season, wasn't he, with Tottenham?
Good point, he was, yeah.
For some reason, decided that the principles he was always talking about sticking to didn't apply in that competition. So maybe we'll see sort of the best of Nuno's Forest tonight if he applies that same thing. It almost feels irrelevant, though, doesn't it? Because it just feels like whatever happens, he's going to win this competition with them. Even if they lose tonight, it's like there's so much road left.
That's a big shout, though, Jim.
Morgan Gibbs-White said, Ange is incredible. He's won things in the past. He's made that very clear with us in the dressing room. I bet he has. Yeah. He's made sure, though, that he wants us to win things, and he's trying to install that winning mentality into us. When we get that first win, we'll be unstoppable.
Can I translate that?
Yeah.
I was dropped for the last game, and I'd quite like to play again. So, Ange is incredible. Players do this all the time. It's funny.
It's also quite hard to think of any... or to hear any Morgan Gibbs-White interview now without thinking that someone is pointing a gun at him.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a mouthpiece for the regime these days.
Yeah. That's true. But look, at home to Midtjylland, it is a great opportunity, as you say, Luke, for Ange to get his first win as Forest manager. And if they don't, pressure will begin to mount. Now, how about this? Former Nottingham Forest midfielder Roy-kini has been used as the inspiration behind a new line of women's swimwear, obviously. The Roy-kini was debuted at Dublin Fashion Week this week and features pictures of Keane on the top and the bottom. It's highly unnecessary, Jim Campbell, but like me, would you like to see Roy wearing one? No, actually, I thought about that for a second, and it felt like the obvious answer was yes, but it frightened me just to even picture it. Have you seen what the Roy-kini looks like? It is just a picture of him from when he was playing for Ireland, looking relatively angry, possibly just with Roy-kini's resting face on a bright green background. It looks like it took 10 minutes for someone to knock it up, and here we are talking about it. Job done. Well done. It's so crap.
I love the write-up. The write-up is, if you're going away this winter to chase the sun, what better way to do it when wearing your Roy-kini? It's like, what are you fucking talking about? What do you mean?
Yeah, what difference does that make to where the sun is?
It's just so unnecessary. But as you say, Jim, they've got their mensch.
This is potentially a bit unfair, and I don't know anything about the fashion world. Does anyone who's seen me dress with a test? But is it perhaps the reason why Dublin Fashion Week doesn't quite have the reputation of, say, London or Paris?
I don't think it's going to do any favours.
Maybe the novelty section isn't quite having the wider impact
the lads are just taking the piss
on the fashion world that they want.
I mean, if it is the case, I like it. If that's exactly what they're doing, then I like it. But I think the guy who designed it is actually quite serious. I mean, he seems to be quite earnest in when.
They are in the fashion world, aren't they? I wouldn't. You don't get much banter in the fashion world, Luke, and that's why you and I've never got anywhere near it.
It's true.
Now, tonight at 8 p.m, Feyenoord host Aston Villa. Aston Villa visit Rotterdam for the first time since their 1982 European Cup final, which of course they won against Bayern Munich, Tim.
What a show for throwbacks this has been.
Come on.
It can be 1982, we're 1986.
We're First World War, Belgium.
Yeah.
Villa won back-to-back games for the first time since April, with their victories against Bologna and Fulham, controversially.
Speaking of Europa League specialists.
Yes. Villa. I mean, it's the Europa League, Jim. It's Unai Emery. We're expecting, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. They've won 2 games back to back now. They've obviously had an appallingly bad start to the season. That should be kind of beneath this squad and this manager, but they do seem to have turned that around. Obviously, they were very good in the second half, in particular against Fulham. And I think this and Fenerbahce away are their trickiest ties in the Europa League, so they will want to get this one put to bed, just to make sure that this is as smooth a ride as possible for them. They should really be walking through this group stage, and that should start tonight.
I think Feyenoord are a good team. What I've seen of Feyenoord, they lost to Braga narrowly in their first game, but domestically they've been really good. So, and I suppose the fact that they got knocked out by Fenerbahce in the qualification for the Champions League is perhaps, obviously doesn't show them in the best light. But if essentially you're qualifying for the Champions League, you drop down to the Europa League, you've got to have something about you. And domestically, like I say, they've been good. I think this will be a tough trip for Villa.
I think this is what Villa need, though, given the start they've had.
But if you look, and they may well win well, because a lot of the time in this situation, we do see the quality of the Premier League and the heft of it kind of win out pretty regularly. But I just think that, fine, they narrowly get past Bologna, they beat Fulham, and whatever. But I don't think the track record this season has been very good. And if you look at the manner and way they've been up until this Premier League game against Fulham, they've just not been creating anything. They've been really poor.
But even against Fulham don't have a striker on the pitch for most of the game. The first half, Villa were very shaky and were lucky not to be down at half time.
Fulham could have had a penalty as well in another day.
Well, should have had a penalty, yeah. So yeah. I understand that winning 3-1, Watkins getting his goal, we'll see if that translates into a bit more confidence and better performances in this fixture. But of course, Watkins knows how to score against the Dutch. So a late winner from Watkins, he'd be very happy with that.
Sounds rude if you say it like that.
Now, Crystal Palace face Dynamo Kyiv in the Europa Conference League. If Palace avoid defeat, it will be their longest ever unbeaten run, 19 games. But they're off to Poland, of course, to play it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love Palace. I love watching them play.
Yeah,
I think they're great. Their vibes are impeccable. Good luck to them, I say.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, though, because obviously the playoff round that they played was, they won 1-0 over two legs, a pretty drab affair, and at a funny time when people, certain players coming or going, and that was a case of just get it done. Now, in the competition proper, Jim Campbell, they've got to show a bit.
Oliver Glasner's experience with Frankfurt, though, will be key. Again, he is essentially key to everything good they're doing, and I think he's got enough about him to manage them through this stuff.
He's got one of the big three. Could this season he gets two of the big three? That just leaves the Champions League left. Well,
and he gets that move to Man United, and we all have it on our faces.
Crystal Palace fans won't thank us for saying this, but Glasner's got absolutely enough under his belt to be given the Champions League job next. For sure.